If there were a contest to find the biggest understatement of a name ever, Disaster Day of Crisis would probably win. The hero Raymond Bryce has quite possibly the worst day of any fictional character ever. On this day, he will experience an earthquake, a tsunami, firestorms, single-handedly take on a terrorist organization, an erupting volcano, and even more. The seemingly insurmountable odds fit the game because, at least to the casual observer, the complete lack of any focus on one type of gameplay might make it seem like a jumbled mess. But the funny thing is, it all comes together to make one of the most enjoyable 8-hour games I've played in a long time. When you start out, you are put through a rigorous set of tutorials. It's nothing too intimidating because the controls are all really simple, but you start wondering just what the hell are you in for? And because of the unconventional gameplay, the game starts off rather slow, and since there's a leveling system, you're also rather weak, so it's not terribly engaging for the first 2 or 3 levels. And there's 22 levels, by the way. It's not until a little later on, when the game really hits its stride, that you'll find out just how entertaining and awesome the completely over-the-top story makes it, but there is enough action from the start to at least tide you over until that point comes. And speaking of the story, it's pretty much The Rock meets The Day After Tomorrow. Like, literally, almost verbatim. As in, if you took the 2 movies and put them together, you would get this game. So that's about as much as I can say about the story. Actually, a full sentence was pushing it. And despite the lack of any real substance with the story, the game features really well done voice acting and some rather spectacularly animated cutscenes that really do bring it to life. It's seriously entertaining stuff, and I won't lie, I was surprised. As for some of the things you'll be doing in this game, just to name a few you'll be doing running, driving, putting out fires, rescuing individuals, skydiving, and shooting. There are many other things to do, but I'd like to sleep tonight, so I'm just going to leave it there. Now, just take it from me, this game is packed with things to do. In fact, when I saw at the end of the game I'd only put 8 hours in, I was shocked because it felt like 15. And on top of all the variety, there's also a ton of stuff to unlock, from shooting galleries that reward you with new weapons to new t-shirts. There's also a new Game Plus feature that allows you to play again with all your attributes and items from the first time around. Let's just suffice to say this game could potentially keep you busy for weeks. Now, on to some technical issues. Graphically, the game holds up rather well. It has a ton of detail in the surroundings a lot of times, and the animations are okay, but there are some nasty-ass textures on screen, and I'm not sure if the game runs in Pro Scan or not, but there are some really bad jaggies at times too. Oh, and widescreen is supported, as you can see in the review. On the audio side, as mentioned before, the voice acting is superb, and the sound effects are, for the most part, they're pretty well implemented. I just wish Raymond would have left his goddamn tap shoes at home. Surround sound implementation isn't the greatest, but it works okay, and the musical score is pretty epic sounding for such a little-known game. And finally, there's some bad news. This game isn't planned for a release in the US, and the only way to play it right now in English is to import it from Europe. This means you'll either need a European Wii or a hacked American one. Now, whether or not it'll ever come to the States is not known, but my guess is that since there's a lot of language, some political themes about the US government causing terrorism, added to the fact that it sold rather poorly in both Japan and Europe, and it probably doesn't bode well for the game's future here. So if you want to play it, your options are pretty limited. The good news is that it can be imported for less than the cost of an actual retail game here in the States, and it's totally worth every penny. In closing, it's nice to be surprised every now and then, and this is one of those instances. I came into this game really expecting the worst, you know, for the 5s and 6 on Metacritic to be justified, but I came out of it thinking, this game's crazy. Just so crazy that it actually works.